Chapter 10. In 3 more years, we'll be able to get married. Kid? The bartender followed the man's gaze and took just one glance before looking away, uninterested. They do look quite young. Not that young anymore. Fu Yunshan laughed lightly, his tone leisurely. In 3 years, they'll be of legal marriage age. The bartender had no response to that. He shook his head and lowered his voice. Be careful, there's a bounty on your head. Fu Yunshan raised an eyebrow, unsurprised. How much are they offering? An SS rank bounty. $1 billion, currently ranked 7th on the bounty list. The bartender stared at him. At least 10 people on the hunters list have taken up this bounty. Now, do you realize how much you're hated? Whoever made the top 10 of the bounty list was everyone's target. Not killing them would be like turning your back on money. Fu Yunshan's peach blossom eyes curved, hinting at some allure. Well, they'll have to find me first. The bartender agreed on this point and said, even the IBI can't find you. Your ability to stay hidden is probably only second to that number 1 on the list. The IBI, short for International Bureau of Investigation. You can't compare that, Fu. Yunshan spoke nonchalantly. That number 1 hasn't changed for many years, and I've only just made the list. The bounty amount for number 1 on the list surpasses the combined total of the other 9. High enough to compete with the GDP of a small country on the entire continent. But no one has dared to take it on, showing just how difficult it is to kill the person at number 1. No, it would be more accurate to say that they can't even be found. I'm really curious now. Who exactly is this diviner? The bartender clicked his tongue. How could they be more hated than you? The other targets on the bounty list had at least some trace to follow. But this number 1 had vanished, leaving behind no information whatsoever. Moreover, the title of diviner was incredibly arrogant. Even the true magicians and witches of the ancient continent wouldn't directly call themselves diviners. There are fortune tellers today too, but like ancient martial artists, there aren't many real ones left. Most have retreated from the world, and the rest are charlatans and tricksters. If someone could truly foresee everything, it would be utterly absurd. Fu Yunshan raised his peach blossom eyes, half smiling. What are you implying? The truth. You're naturally disliked, but still, you need to be careful. $1 billion is enough to buy an island, and you know those hunters on their list are like madmen. But the bartender paused and frowned. Are you really planning to stay here? He thought you'd at least head to the capital. Fu Yunshan half lifted his eyelids, absent-minded. I do intend to stay in Shanghai City for a while. Upon hearing that, an outrageous thought suddenly popped into the bartender's mind. For a woman. Fu Yunshan raised his eyebrows, unhurried. What are you talking about? She's just a kid. The bartender's expression changed. You're crazy. I've been crazy for a long time. Fu Yunshan stood up, draped his coat over his arm casually, his smile heedless of the world. He patted the bartender's shoulder. Drink less. It's bad for your health. The underground city did not require any form of identification for entry, and was populated by all kinds of people, many of whom deliberately concealed their identities. Along the sides of the road were various shops, with architecture differing according to what was sold. There were ancient Roman, Gothic, and Baroque buildings from the ancient continent, as well as classical garden-style architecture from a Chui country. Ying Zijin looked up and noticed those shops with fortune-teller signs. At a glance, there were at least a dozen of these shops. However, there was only one that had a faint aura of spiritual energy fluttering about it. Tarot cards originated from the ancient continent and became very popular during the Middle Ages. She had also followed the trend and played with them, but their origins remain a mystery to this day. However, there aren't many authentic tarot cards, and the ones sold on the market today can barely be used for minor divination. In other scenarios, they're just bundles of waste paper. Perhaps she should find a real set of tarot cards before her powers fully recover. Ying Zijin seemed thoughtful, pressed down her mask, her eyelashes casting a shadow as she walked into the market. Apart from shops, there were also many street stores nearby, mostly with broken antiques. But this did not prevent eager buyers from getting swindled. The girl casually surveyed the items, observing hundreds of antiques in a mere seconds, and as expected, all of them were fakes without exception. It wasn't until half an hour later that Ying Zijin finally spotted what she needed. It was an ancient coin, inconspicuously mixed in with a pile of celadon ware. The characters branded on the ancient coin were heavily worn, and it was smeared with soil at first glance, It looked like it was made from clay.
She lowered her head, her eyes narrowing. In an instant, she calculated the Iran name of the coin.
A Qin half-tail silver coin, cast in 339 BC during the Warring States period. 2,000 years later, its price would be more than 5 million. Ying Zijin crouched down. How much for this? She was referring not to the ancient coin, but to a stone bowl next to it. The vendor was Iron Man. He glanced at the girl, looked her up and down, and said dismissively, "Take it for 500. There was a hint of scorn in his tone. Ying Zijin glanced sideways, her hand finally landing on the silver ancient coin. "And this? Take it, take it." The young man grew more impatient. "Just take them all and don't hinder my business."
He was waiting to swindle a few rich kids for a larger sum and had no time to waste with a pauper.
Ying Zijin's expression remained unchanged. She put down $500 bills, picked up the stone bowl and ancient coin, rubbed them, and squinted her phoenix eyes.
Now she was certain that Earth was a world where cultivation was not possible. But that was fine. She could peacefully retire.
However, to the young man, her action seemed like the antics of a desperate woman. He sneered, not bothering to hide the derision in his voice and purposely raising it. A complete pauper with no taste, thinking she's found at Heiress.
A nearby vendor overheard and said, "Hey, don't be so blunt. The girl has to save face."
Save face. It really is true that nowadays anyone can enter the underground city, isn't it? Lately, there's always a bunch of paupers looking for a bargain. It's so embarrassing.
Having been in the underground market for so long, how could they not know which customers actually had money?
These paupers, they couldn't even be bothered to cheat. The young man scoffed again. It's not just about being poor. This is stupidity, lacking even the basic ability to identify. The stone bowl was something he had bought on a treasure hunting website for $5, and the coin was something he had picked up in a park in Punan, worthless.
These two items were just there to make up the numbers, but unbelievably there was actually a fool who would buy them, allowing him to easily make a profit of 500.